Before we get into this interview, we just wanted to knock our plugs out really quick because when we're in here with the guests, we try not to waste their time. And then also, a lot of times we forget because we're in that interview mode and we're trying to keep it conversational. So, at Smashing Heads Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and then at Smashing Heads on Twitter is the best way to keep up with us. It's where we let everyone know when episodes drop. It's how we let everyone know who's our next interview and things like that. So again, you know how social media works. Just follow us on there. If you want to support the show, if you like what we're doing, if you want early access to interviews, if you want to ask questions to people we're interviewing, if you want ad-free content or exclusive podcasts that don't go anywhere else, patreon.com is the absolute best way to support what we're doing. And we can't thank our patrons enough for everything that they do. And we love doing it, and we love making extra stuff for them. So maybe check that out if that's something you're interested in. If you're new here and you don't know who we are, I think we introduce ourselves when we get the interview going. But if not, we are a challenge podcast, and typically we do episode recaps during the new seasons whenever they air. We'll watch and then record the night of, drop them, give our raw thoughts and everything going on, and just put that out there for you guys. But right now, we're in between seasons, so we're actually using CBS All Access. We're not paid by them. I wish we were, but we're using CBS All Access to go back and watch some old seasons because we just started this podcast about 2 years ago, so there's a lot of things that we have missed, and it's fun to kind of go back and rewatch these ones that we haven't seen in maybe 5 or 10 years, things like that. So that's what we're doing right now. If you're here for Holey Moley content, this is probably the only podcast that will ever come up, but we do talk with Noor about it and get his take on the difference between Holey Moley and the challenge and things like that. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy the interview. Welcome back to Smashing Heads Podcast. We're doing an interview, which we haven't done in a while, actually. Who was the last interview we did? Was it Maddie? It's been a while. Anyway, it's been a few months. We've been recapping some old seasons during this off season, and you know who we are if you're here, more than likely. My name is Zach. I'm joined by my wife, Hannah.
Hey, hey, hey.
My best friend, Jake, remotely.
How's everybody doing tonight? And our last interview was actually Nehemiah.
It was Nehemiah. That's right.
Yeah.
So if you're here, you're kind of looking at the person here who's not usually with us, and I will say you look a little different than when the last time we saw you.
Yeah, I got fatter. I got fatter,
I wasn't
and
going to say that.
I haven't shaved since the last time you saw me. But yeah, I look a little bit different, but I guess that comes with age.
But the camera quality looks great, which I know Chris appreciates up here.
So
it's all about angles on my side.
Yeah.
It's all about angle, up, down. You know how it is.
Well, let's just do a proper introduction before people get really confused. We're joined by Noor. I'm going to try it. Jehangir.
Terrible.
Oh,
just Jehangir.
Jehangir.
Listen,
perfect.
I told you before we started recording, I watched Holey Moley last night just to kind of get my bearings again, because I watched the episode when it came out. By the way, didn't know you were on there. You were just the thumbnail on Hulu, and I was like, what is happening? And so that we'll talk about that in a minute, but we watched that last night. It's been a while since I've watched Fresh Meat 2, which was your only season on the challenge. Do you want to get into like how you got cast for that? Like, were you trying to get on the Real World? That seems to be a story for a lot of the Fresh Meat people.
Yeah, so like I was in college at the time, and I was playing college at sports, and so like I always wanted to do something, but if you're ever in college sports, like your life's taken over. Mm-hmm. They have your next 4 years planned out for you. You're not doing anything fun. So, so I'd always kind of wanted to give it a shot, see if I had it. And so the minute I graduated, I had sent in a tape for Real World Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And with any type of reality show, like you send in a tape, then there's like one round of interviews, then two, then three, then like after 4 Skype interviews and 3 phone interviews, then then there's some type of actual face-to-face deal. And in that situation, they fly you to LA, they fly you to the BNP studios, they run that. So they did that with me as well. And then it came down to me and one other person for Real World Brooklyn, and they ended up going with the other person.
Who do you know which one it was?
I don't know who the other person was. Could have been Sarah or Katelin. I know there's a couple other people on there.
Chet and Devin. And I mean, I watched that Real World season, so I would have seen you before that.
Yeah. So it didn't happen for whatever reason. And so then they legit called me like, I want to say like a year and a half later. They're like, what are you doing? I was like, working. What's going on? And they're like, you know, we're going to run fresh meat back. And, you know, we know you have an athletic background. We think you'd be a good fit, yada, yada. And I don't remember much because it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember that process was like super expedited because they'd already done everything with the real world.
Yeah.
I think they'd already done the backgrounds and this and that. So with that one, they were like, hey, what do you think? And it was like 2 phone calls and I got a contract and that was it.
So by that point, they'd already kind of weeded out like any potential like lunatics that might be coming on, that you hope at least.
I mean, I don't think they ever weed out the lunatics. I think they end up there.
There's a fine
Somehow
line. There's a fine line for reality. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 always sneak in through the cracks.
Yeah. So a lot of people kind of had, especially fresh meat, have a similar story than you. I mean, as you, it's just kind of a weird situation when you think that you're going to get on this one show and then it just kind of disappears and they call you out of nowhere. Did you just kind of have to drop everything?
Basically, they basically hit you up and they go, hey, and the funny part is they go, hey, we're interested in you. We want you to come on. Shooting dates are October 21st to November 21st. Can you get the time off? Like, what's the scenario going, right? And the funny part is, say you're on the contestant side or the talent, whatever you want to call it, you say, all right, you go to your job goes, all right, we'll figure something out. You can have those 4 weeks off. You commit, you end up going, right? What people don't understand is that the first person goes back in 3 days. So the first person gets sent home after 3 days. So on Wednesday, you could have literally been like, hey guys, I'll be gone for 5 weeks. I'm going to make $250,000, kick rocks. And then you're back that weekend and they're like, what are you doing here? And you're like, it didn't pan out the way I pictured it. So they had called me and I was at a job that I was very happy to say, hey, I need 4 weeks off for y'all can kick rocks. And that's what happened. So
were you in Texas at the time still?
Right. I was in Austin at the time.
Okay.
And then I ended up doing the show. And then we did some like gigs and we did like the spring breaks and all that kind of the gauntlet that people go through after the show.
Yeah.
And then I was on a phone call with Brandon Nelson.
That was our first
That's
interview.
our guy.
That was our first interview ever.
We love Brandon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. So, so Brandon was on the show with me, obviously, and we reconnected after the show. And basically, I'm chatting with him, this, that. And I was born and raised in Austin. And Austin's like a super fun town. And now it's exploding to like crazy potential, which I'm not sure I'm a fan of because it was like a little smaller and it had like culture. And
it's like South Portland now.
Right. It's like it's the Portland, Denver, San Diego vibes. And now like Forbes kept rating it number one place to live in America. They average, I think, 160 people a day that move in.
Whoa.
And so it's like we only have 2 highways. So my entire family lives there. So my mom, my dad, my sisters, my nephews, my nieces. So I do go back and visit a lot. But at that moment, I was like, look, like I've done everything there is here. I was in the nightlife scene and this and that. And I was like, I want to. And when you live in the South, you grow up in the South, you always hear about the West Coast. You always hear about California and Hollywood and this and that. And that was something that always intrigued me. So so Brandon had actually moved from Arkansas to Vegas right after the show. And I was like, you know, what's it like, this, that. And we have like a 2-hour conversation. It's probably like midnight in Texas, 10 p.m. in Vegas. After like 2 hours, he convinced me. He's like, dude, you got to move here. Like, I'll set everything up, this, that, bang.
Yeah. So
that was like in 3 weeks. So I told my parents, hey, May 1st, I'm moving to Vegas.
Was it May 1st this year?
No. This was 2011.
Okay. I was like,
yeah.
Because I knew you were in Texas for a while, and then I knew you moved out west.
No. So this is right after the show because it aired in like 2010, the fall season, and then so this is April of 2011. We had done all the spring break stuff. I just got back, and I was like, look, I'm gonna move. My parents were like, sure, whatever. And then I told Brandon, hey, we're gonna. So then night before I'm ready to move, I pack everything into like my purple station wagon, which was like, her name was Sheila the Schwagon. And then I totally forgot. There's a picture of my old wolf who was like.
I followed your wolf on Instagram.
Yeah, he was like 160 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh my
and so I was like, oh crap. I was like, he's got to still come with me too. So I literally had to like sell half my belongings in 30 minutes and the rest just went on the curb. And then I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm leaving. And they're like, really? It's like, yeah, I just told you I'm moving. And they're like, we didn't think you were serious. I drive all the way to Vegas. I take my time. So I think I took 2 or 3 days. I get there. Brendan has nothing ready. And I'm like, and he was like, bro, like, I knew you were coming. I was like, what do you mean? Like, we hashed out the details for like 2 hours. He's like, dude, I was blacked out. I don't know what you're talking about. I was drunk that entire phone call. And I was like, So I show up to Vegas with a wolf, a station wagon packed full of my shit, and nowhere to stay. So I'm like, lovely. So that day I end up calling Carly, who I knew lived in town as well.
Oh, she.
And I
didn't realize she was in Vegas.
So, well, she was the only one that was originally like representing Vegas.
Okay.
On our season. And I was like, hey, I just came to town and Brandon was supposed to have my ready, this, that. Do you mind if I stay at your place for like a day or two? And she's like, no, it's totally fine. And I was like, by the way, I have a wolf. Are you cool with that? And she was like, I have a little dog. I hope he doesn't eat it. And so it worked out. And she had she lived with a male at the time too. So it was kind of like weird for a little bit, but I was super gracious for her to let me stay there. And then finally Brandon got everything sorted out. So I moved in with him, and that was 2011. So like 9.5 years ago. Yeah. And I'm still here.
Wow.
So I want to hear the story about how you came by this wolf. How do you come about acquiring a wolf?
So a buddy of mine, he trained animals for Disney. And so basically the animals had to, 1, have a certain type of look, and 2, be able to perform on camera, whatever the simple task it can be. So they had a pen with articles and timber wolves, and I guess they'd put 2 in a holding pen just for like 30 minutes while they were cleaning something out, and they knew they would get along. Apparently they got along a little too well, and they made a baby. And it was only one pup, and it was like half timber, half Arctic wolf, and then like 5% like Alaskan Malamute. And they were like, we don't have space for it. And it was hideous, right? The thing looked like a raccoon. So, so I was like, all right. So he calls me and he's like, I know you, and it was my 21st birthday. And he knew I'd been wanting to get one, and I'd always been interested in him. So I was like, all right. So I drive up to and it's in the middle of nowhere, like outside of Dallas, a little place called Idallys, Texas. It's a trash can. Yeah. So I go there, and it takes me it's like about a 4-hour drive from Austin. And it was not the animal in the picture that he sent me. He sent me this perfect little white dog, blue eyes, Disney, right? What do you expect?
Yeah, yeah.
And I get there and I'm like, that's a raccoon. And he's like, I know, but he goes, I know you want to drive 4 hours and go home empty-handed. I'm like, you are kidding me. So he gives it to me, and it's hideous. And what's funny is was it cute? Yeah, only because it was small. Because small things are cute, right? I take it home. I stopped at my mom's house on the way to my house. And my mom was like, yeah, no. She was like, and my mom always had this really high standard of beauty. So when we had animals, they had to have X color eyes, and they had to have certain markings or certain colorations. And if it wasn't pure or beautiful, my mom was like, no. She's like, it can live in the garage or in the backyard. So I brought the wolf. Mom's like, yeah, it's hideous. So, so I was like, cool. So, and then what I really got lucky with, and if you go to his page, it was a wolf named Kai. Yeah. Is all his Instagram stuff. He ends up growing up and actually looking really good. So I got lucky. He turned into a little swan. But those first 5 years of having a wolf, it's a totally different type of animal where they have pack mentality. So in the wild, at the end of the day, a wolf wants to have his own pack. Yeah. And so as they're growing up, they look for ways to knock off the alpha male. And so which is very right. So it's the same situation with us. And he'll do little things to see your reaction to figure stuff out. So one, he was way too smart. So he understood up, down, push, pull. And the minute they understand push, pull, then you're screwed, because then they can open anything. And so basically, like, if I was to go into a room, he'll try to go in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, no, and I'll walk in, right? And so we would get his dog food and put it on the table, and then I would eat dinner, and then I would hand him his, because so he could see me eating mine, and that like hierarchy maintains. And if you're walking and the dog's laying there and he's like in your line, you basically step on the dog. You step on the dog and keep going. And so then what he'll do is like, and it happened. I mean, that first 5 years was a nightmare. Don't get me wrong. I was 21. Like, I was there for it. As an adult, I would have probably given the dog away, but I was 21. You'll leave your food like in the living room, like on, your dining room table or whatever it is. And I'll literally go to the bathroom, or I'll go to the door, or just go to the other room to get a drink, and he'll take it.
Yeah.
And then he'll see what you do. And he makes super, super conscious decisions. Like, they go, I know this is wrong. I'm going to do it. Is the risk worth the reward? And I know I'm going to get my kicked in for about 5 minutes, because he was massive. He was 160 pounds.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I'd come home, he would take the trash out and display it all over the living room and the kitchen and wherever else he dragged it, right? And then the dog got kicked out of him. And then like with wolves, you like flip them on their back.
Yeah.
You have to like get on them. And then what's funny is you have to lock eyes with them. And I'll literally have him by his chuff, and I'm on top of him, literally straddling him. And he'll take his eyes and start just looking around the room, so he doesn't have to look at me. And like, you're yelling at the top of your lungs. You can yell whatever you want. They don't know what the hell you're saying. They just understand volume.
Yeah.
They understand
tone.
that you're angry.
Yeah.
But he ate the neighbor's cat. And the problem was we had a German Shepherd, we had a Malamute, we had my wolf, and we had this other fourth random dog so there's 4 guys living in a house, and we all had big dogs. And in Texas, we have those wooden fences, like the regular, like wooden planks that you put up. And I think Tennessee has the same one.
Privacy fences.
And Jake, where are you at?
We're all in Tennessee.
Yeah, we're all in Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. So he understood that if he puts his paw under and pulls, he can pull the nails off. So he would do it daily, and he would let everyone out. And the funny part was the other 3 dogs were relatively good dogs, but it's like, it's pack mentality. It's like, if all of us go out drinking together and someone bumps into me or talk, of course I'm going to talk back, because I got 7 of my dudes with me, right? And that's exactly what these did. So they would go out, and he would let everyone out. So my dog was obviously the instigator. And funny part is, I'm going to do a spring break event in Florida at this time. He lets him out. He runs down the street to the crazy cat lady who fed like 10 strays, but she had one that was like 12 years old. My dog comes back, and from ear to snout, he's just dripping in blood. I am on the way to Florida, and my roommate is like, he's like freaking out. He's like, so, and he hasn't called me yet. No, I think he did. And he goes, hey, he's Australian. And he's like, your dog just came home. And he's dripping in blood. No, I don't know what to do. I was like,
that's a pretty good accent, by the way.
I was like, wash the blood. Washes the blood. Obviously, someone knocks on the door. It's her. And she's like freaking out because like the cat has to be put down. And I'm on my way to Panama City Beach having a good time. And my roommate's dealing with it all. And then her husband comes over, and he's got a gun in his hand. And he's like, I don't know whether to thank you boys or be angry. I'm not really sure right now. So then I had to pay $100 for his dog to be put down, or his cat to be put down. So yeah, long story short, wolves don't get along with cats.
I didn't
He killed a deer. He did kill a deer once when we were out in the woods.
Well,
He was like,
I don't have a problem with that, because there's deer everywhere in Tennessee, and they are super
right.
obnoxious.
And in Texas, they're white-tailed deer everywhere. And so, and also the other thing was like, I was a big no leash type of guy, because I was like, I always watched the movies when I was a kid, and I loved, like you can walk out and whistle and the dog like comes flying behind you, and you're all trained. And so, so he lived to 12, and from 4 to 12, that's how he was. But from 1 to 4, like you took him off the leash, and luckily I was a college athlete, but I was running, like 5 minute 45, like I'd run sub 6 miles, and I'd do it sub 6 minute mile for like 5 to 6 miles. And I could not keep up with this animal. The animal would fly. And the problem was in Austin, there's something called the Green Belt, which is awesome. And if you can Google, just Google Austin Green Belt. It's just basically a valley that goes around Austin, and there's a spring-fed river that goes through it, and you can just hike, you can swim in the river. It's like a real big thing to do in Austin. And there's wildlife, and there's a bunch of dead wildlife, just like in Tennessee. And so the problem was he'd run in the woods and I'd just keep running, and he would see where I was and kind of keep an eye on me, but then he'd find like empty carcasses and roll in like old deer blood or like a dirty raccoon, and then come back and you were like, it was rancid. And the river's right there, but you're literally dunking him underwater and nothing's working.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you guys should totally get a wolf. It's a really exciting time.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Like it's got a lot more of a humanized aspect to it than like just
but it's like because one, you have to remember, you got to go through that whole, the 7-year rule. Like when he's 1, he's acting like a 7-year-old child, and he's 2, he's acting like a 14-year-old child. But the problem was at 1, he was 90 pounds. He was 90 pounds when he stood up. He was about 5'3". So if you got just a regular puppy, right? Your 1-year-old or like a 20-pound dog, it's going to be this big, and it can do this much damage, right? And it can chew your carpet or something, right? Or it can, while this monster behind me, he was 90 pounds. So the damage he could do was way bigger. So he understood how to get out of the kennel. And I had a lock on it, and I was sick of like unlocking. So I just locked it one day. I come home, he gets out of the kennel. I'm like, shocker. And he's like excited. He's like, look what I did. I got out. I'm like, hey. So I have to go run to PetSmart, and I'm not taking him with me because like he loves other dogs unless, 1, they have their balls, or 2, like they look at him the wrong way. If they look at him the wrong way, it's game over and he wants to go for the throat. And then like, that's a lovely scene you don't want at PetSmart, because then everyone just stares at you and thinks you're an awful dog owner. So I lock him in the bathroom and I shut the door, and it was like my master bedroom had a bathroom in it. Lock my room door, go to PetSmart, come back, open my room door, my dog's right in front of me.
Tore through that
I'm
bathroom.
like, how'd you get out of the bathroom? I was like, I locked you in the bathroom. I go around the corner. The door was there. The frame was there. He came through the wall. He just barreled his nose into the drywall and just kept going through. And now there's a hole in my wall to my bathroom. And I'm like, many times I regretted like what the fuck I got because of the amount of damage it could do. And then he gets on my bed and eats straight down in the middle, which like annoyed and this is back, when like not everybody had a Tempur-Pedic. We had springs in our mattresses. I'm not sure if the kids know what those are. Yeah. Right in the middle. So like a normal dog would like chew the edges. No, right. So like when I slept, like the spring was just in my left cheek. And I was like, no. So, but then after year 5, it was, I go anywhere, he stays near me. He doesn't go anywhere. He just kicks it. And he's not like a cuddle dog. Like they don't want to cuddle ever. Yeah. But he's like, if I'm in the room, he'll come and lay down in the room. So when we would go to like the store, I'd go to like the outlet mall or something, or like an outdoor shopping mall. He would come in, just lay down by the cashier. He would find like his own place, and then I'd literally do whatever I wanted. I'd whistle on the way out, and he'd get up and just follow me out. Like, so the last 8 years are awesome. And then he did getting cancer, and so then we did like a 1.5 year long like documentary, and we kind of did all that, which was totally worth it. But the funny part was that he had 3 types of cancer, and the vet said he's got like 6 to 9 weeks left. So I'm like, all right, we have 3 months left. So you go into like 3-month mode, right? So it's like, what do you want to eat? You want Wendy's? Let's go to Wendy's. Like, you want steak? Let's go eat steak. So whatever you want, right?
Because it's expensive.
Because he's 21. Like I'm 21 when I get him, right? Now my like adult life is starting, and I have moved cities to where I've moved cities twice to where I didn't know anybody. It was just me. So the only continuation I had was this dog. And so he was like, we were super close, and he had a special like place in my heart. So for those 3 months, we like go all out. I'm like, ice cream, like what the you want? I take him. And at this point I lived in LA. I lived in Hollywood. And so I take him to the grocery store. I take him to the meat market. I let him pick what he wanted. Well, unfortunately, like I found out that when a dog is dying, dogs vibe off you, right? There's like a skit that Bill Burr does. It's like, if you're sleepy, the dog's sleepy. If you're angry and hyped up, the dog's angry and hyped up. If you're crying, the dog's moping and sad. So I was like, look, obviously it was sad, but I was like, if I like weep or cry or I'm sad in front of this dog, the dog's going to be sad and cry. He's probably going to kill him quicker. So every morning I woke up, I was like, buddy, what do you want to do? I'm like, where are we going? Like, let's get this day going. And he would wake up like super amped. And so after 3 months and X thousands of dollars later, he's still around. And I'm like, I was like, I didn't plan on you still being around, but screw it. Let's keep having fun and then it ended up going a year and a half.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where I was like, I didn't budget for a year and a half. I budgeted for you to die last April and you're still here. And so at the end of the day, I don't regret a thing. Yeah, we spent a ton of money on him, but it's like, it is what it is. He's a happy boy. He and then like there's a video that I'm sure you've seen. It's like a 5-minute long video where it's like we went out on top. Like the dog
I watched,
finished on top and did his thing. And then the craziest part was like 2 months afterwards, I'm going from LA to Miami. This girl sits next to me is crying and I'm like, what's going on? Like, which is weird. Like I'm middle seat, right? Yeah. And it's like a discount airline.
Hey, what's
and
your
this
problem?
Girl's next to me crying. I'm just like, I mean, you can't just be like, want some peanuts? Like, you know, it's just like, hey, like, you all right? And she tells me, hey, my dog just got cancer and they gave him X amount of time to live. And I was like, oh, I'm like, here's the blueprint. And I told her exactly what to do. It ends up living twice as long as the expectancy. And I told her what to do with like pictures and videos and this and that. And so like, it was cool that I got to like relay the message. And then I saw her like post maybe 9 months later, kind of a cool little story about how she met me and then like what she did with the dog the last 9 months. So it was pretty cool, but safe to say we're animal people. And I've spent 15 minutes talking about that dead dog behind me. So,
well, here,
No,
I've got
totally fine with that.
I got a lot to unpack from all that. One, I did follow your dog because when we started this podcast on July 4th of 2018. And so we went through and I followed every challenge related thing, like cast member wise, that we could on social media. And I saw you were posting about that. And so I started following your dog and I thought you were just being like facetious. I didn't know that he was actually like part wolf. I thought you were just like, oh, my husky, yeah. But we call him a wolf. I had no idea.
That's the funny part. Was a lot of people are like, well, he's a husky, right? And I'm like, have you seen a husky this big? And they're like, no.
Well, it's hard to tell like scale, like from just pictures and stuff, I guess.
Right, that's true too. And we would run into that in public a lot. People were like, and a lot of people that had been around wolves, they knew exactly what it was. And a lot of people were like, is that? And then like, of course, when it came to like legal or like veterinary or anything like that, I'm like, yeah, it's a mountain. And then like my vet here in Vegas, he knew exactly what it was. So the first place we went, they were like, sorry, that's a wolf. We can't treat that. The next guy, he's like this old Samoan dude. He's like, oh, it's the big husky. Come. I'm like, he totally knows what it was. But, and he was super cool with it. And, but yeah, so you would get that in public a lot. And I actually, that dog is also the reason I got into watching Game of Thrones, was because anywhere I went, I had some dip from the corner yelling, is that a dire wolf? And I'm like, who are you? Like, and especially in LA, it made my life into a nightmare because like, it's never like anyone you want. It's never like a single attractive female coming towards you being like, is that a dad? No, it's like some dad and his like 4 children and he's making some stupid joke that they have to laugh about. And I'm just like, it's like, never heard that one before. And especially also if anyone's ever had a big dog, I'm not sure if you all have.
We have an American Bulldog who's like 90 pounds.
Relatively big.
Yeah.
Like
not as big as yours.
Like the bigger ones, when you take them in public, like just some dip, it's always just like, is that a horse? Like, did you ride that here? How much does he? Like, you're like,
yeah. So that's I like a lot to unpack from what you just said for a couple reasons. One is I have an 11-year-old Shiba Inu, which is obviously not as big as what you have. She's like 20, 25 pounds. But it's the same exact mentality as what you're talking about, where she knows that what you want and just doesn't care and it's going to test you and push you on all these things and doesn't want to be around you but wants to just kind of be near you sometimes. She's the most stubborn dog I've ever met in my life. She knows how to like get out whenever there's any sort of like an opportunity to do so. And then we have the giant dog, and he's the sweetest, dumbest thing in the world. But because we knew he was going to be so big, we did what you said, where like when we would feed him, we wouldn't let him eat until we like gave him like, okay, you can go now, because we're like, when he gets huge, he's going to like run us over if not.
Right. He's going to, and that's what people don't understand is like, if you don't, and what people think animals are dumb. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I can't tell you how many times I go into someone's house and the dog keeps doing X and then the owner ends up doing Y. And I'm like, yeah, that dog has you trained.
Yeah.
I'm like, if that dog keeps doing that, it knows it's going to get that. Like, if it keeps whining, it knows it's going to give you a treat.
Or if they jump on people and they get petted, it's you're reinforcing that they'll get petted every time.
So it's they're brilliant animals. But yeah, so we had to do a lot of food stuff, especially when he was younger. Like, we would shove our hand in the dog bowl, and then let him eat around my fingers, just so he didn't get super possessive. And oh dear, sorry, the debate just came on my screen. That's the last thing we want to watch right now.
Like again, like the same type of thing, because when we got ours, like he was already giant as a puppy, and I was like, if we don't teach him to like wait and understand, like we can put our hands in his mouth and all that, like he's gonna be able to destroy you when he gets older.
Yeah, and he'll be a head. Yeah, and then you like see head dogs, and you're like, wow, like you're a human. Yeah, because that dog wasn't like that. You made him like that.
When we would go to the dog park with him, he's like one of the biggest ones out there, and then other dogs would get in fights, and he just runs away because he doesn't want any part of it, even though he could destroy any of them. And it's just bad owners. And the one thing that I wasn't prepared for, because I've never had a dog this big, and obviously it's not 160, is when they get sick or like do go to the bathroom in the house or anything, like it is so much.
It's a lake. It's And you know what's funny is that's how I ended up choosing who is now my wife. She came over one night. She ends up taking my dog with her to her house because she was like, I'm just going to have the day off and he'll be with me. And I'm like, all right. And then he had diarrhea all over her living room. And to the point where it like fountained out, right? And this is actually the wall right here. So it fountained out. It pinged off of the floor and splashed. So she had a splatter pattern on her living room wall for my dog. And her not complaining and cleaning it, I was like, wow, you're the one.
You're like, hey, do you want to get married?
So I was like, I think I'm really onto something here. And that's how our relationship started. But
well, I was going to congratulate you on, I know you're recently married.
I am. I took the plunge. I saw how happy my married friends were. I was like, man, how do I get that happy? And so I put a ring on it, and they said she's going to turn into a princess, and that was false advertising. She didn't turn into a princess. She's actually the same person that she was the day before, and like she doesn't cook or clean anymore or any less. It's like this. So I'm kind of bummed that like she didn't turn into this magical creature, but.
You know, it happens. I mean, we've been married almost 5 years now. You know,
and how long have y'all been together?
6?
5 years.
Well, I mean, it's closer to 6, like total.
Well, how long were you together until you got married?
Not long, not super long.
4 to 6 months.
Yeah, something like that.
4 to 6 months.
Yeah, they went quick. Moved quick.
We knew each other, and we were kind of like friends, acquaintances for a while. So by the time we got married, we had known each other for
like a year
almost a year and a half.
Which is still not long. Yeah, it's still not that long. Hey, it's working.
But see, here's the thing. I'm divorced, and so I dated the girl I was with for right at a year, and here I am divorced. So maybe next time I come upon the woman of my dreams, let's just shoot for like 3 months. Dating, and then we'll just get married.
Yeah, just rush into it.
So here's a question for you guys: you got together, you ended up getting married.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. Let's say now you're on year 2. Is there something that you're married now to this person, and is there something that you found out that you did not know prior to marriage, and you were like, oh, there's this about you, or there's that about you?
I like this
because
you're the marriage counselor.
Messier than he let on, and he still tried to hide it for a while until we got almost a year in.
Well,
and now it's just messy, and I'm like, I'm a strong type A, type 1 personality. Everything has its place. It needs to be in its place at all times. When there is a mess, it's all that I can see. I can't focus on anything else, so I won't sleep at night. I will not be able to sit still. It will drive me insane until it's clean.
Bro, Jesus, the poor lady can't sleep. Pick your damn socks up.
It's not that. It's
just shaving the ears off.
It's more so. It's like the way that just my brain works is it's like if it functions well, then like I just don't even like see things that might be out of place. And like her, it's all she sees, even if everything, like if 99% of everything is in order, she just sees the one little thing that's out. So I mean, it balances out because obviously, I mean,
well, so there's a book called Men Are Stupid, Women Are Crazy,
mm-hmm.
and it's a very, very accurate book because we're just dumb humans.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's not just him. Like we're all messy. Because like because like I see the mess, but the mess isn't impacting my productivity or what I'm trying to do. It's literally, it's not talking. It's just there. So it's like, will I leave my, absolutely. Like, and every now and then you get the OCD male who like, is spick and span and cleans everything all the time, this and that. I'm definitely not one of those. I definitely leave a mess around, but that's awesome that you guys, everything worked out and you're still together and you're doing a podcast, which me and her, we've been together for 8.5 years.
Wow. Yeah, longer than us.
And so there's very few things that we share, like a podcast like this. Like we're like, I'm a big believer in what you need and not what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of guys will be like, I want, this type of personality, and she looks like this, and she watches sports, and she cooks food, and she wants to go golfing. That's what you want. In reality, the last thing you want is your wife texting you about trade rumors about your favorite NFL team, right? Like that's not what you want. So like when it's time for me to watch football or something, I either have to go to the other room, or she's like, go with your friends. Or if I'm golfing, she's like, go, and I'm like, let's go golfing together. She's like, absolutely not. Go with your friends. And it's this like great balance that we've had. So there's very few things that her and I enjoy mutually, which is like laying in bed, being homebodies, like certain TV shows, eating. We both are fat. It is what it is. Like we love gluten and grease. It's delicious. Like
you're born and raised in Texas.
Yeah,
right,
you're gonna
exactly.
Have a good palate.
I was born and raised on breakfast tacos and brisket and all that, and Indian food when I went back to my mom and dad's house. It's just like full on.
I love Indian food. She's just allergic to a lot of it, so we gotta watch out on some of it.
And so she doesn't eat seafood.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, she's like white. She's like Miracle Whip white, and she doesn't even eat Miracle Whip. Like when we go get she gets a burger, plain meat, cheese.
I do that a lot of times.
No,
I do that a lot of times.
I'll take whatever has every but she doesn't eat sushi. So there's no sushi and there's no fish and this and that. And so like so that's like a thing that we kind of clash at, but we always find like a mutual median. But it's like, hey, I want to get sushi. And she's like, great, go with your friends. So I got to call my bros and I'm like, hey, anyone want to go on a sushi date, bro? Like, so yeah, there's little things that I wish were like that, but it's like, it's just such a balance. It's never been too much of one thing, too much of other thing. I think that's why it's worked out so well. Could I have proposed 4 years ago? Probably, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think he said it earlier, your dog pooped all over her walls and she stuck around. So, I mean, I think you guys got something going on.
The first night I spent the night at her house, the very first time, we had tacos that night, like just grimy, like Vegas Mexican food. So you can imagine that's not going to sit well on your stomach. And so the next morning I wake up and like, it's the stage relationship where he hides his mess. And it's a stage relationship where like you want to be that perfect human for the other person. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're going out of your way. So it's that stage where you wake up and you have to and you're like, oh, I have this meeting I got to get to. Like, it was so good seeing you. Got to go. I went to her bathroom. I opened the door and I took a while staring at her on our first date. And I really broke the ice right off the bat. I was like, you know what? And for some reason, I got up to literally be like, hey, I got to go. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go here. And I just went and just took a dump in her bathroom where she like doesn't have any males. I was like, hey, so, and she was like shocked. She was like, what are you doing? Why are you in there? Why are you making eye contact? And
these are all very dog-like qualities. Like, it's very
dude,
like
I got the out of the way first. Like, how many, like, when you date someone, it's like you gotta hold your farts in, like you can't from them. I was like,
well,
yeah,
it's what you said, like with the wolf, like they're gonna do things to like push your boundaries and like assert their dominance, and like that is exactly what you just described.
I marked it my territory right then, and I said, this is now our toilet, and she was disgusted, but it ended up working out, and so here we are.
Well, I've always heard you know, it's not really true love unless you can poop in front of each other.
Exactly.
You know?
Like I know people that have been married for like 6 years. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah, let's go.
This is taking a turn that I didn't expect.
I've been married. I've known friends that have been married for 6 years, and when the other one, they have a 2-story house, and when the other one has to go to the bathroom, the other one goes to the opposite level.
No.
Oh no,
and I'm like,
it's
what?
It's not like that, but like I don't want to like, hey, look me in the eyes. Look at this.
Right. No. Yeah. There's no, I'm the captain now. You don't want to do that. Yeah. But like, as long as you can be like, hey, I got to take a dump. And then you go, that's healthy. Right. But like
feel free to come in there and brush your teeth, Han, if he's, you know,
right.
pooping.
Well,
yeah. I mean,
the way our bathroom's set up is like, there's a separate like toilet area. And then there's like,
like a toilet room.
Yeah. And then there's a shower. And like,
then we
so you just close that door.
Yeah.
Well, just tear that wall down.
Yeah.
And have you gone in there when he's in there?
No.
Not when he is, but I will say I don't know if he does it on purpose, if he has a tracker on me, or if it really is just a crazy coincidence. But
I can tell it's 100% a coincidence.
Since we moved into this house last November, it does not matter if he's downstairs or on the opposite end of the house doing anything. When I decide I need to go to the bathroom, I will go in there to pee, and I hear his footsteps coming, and he's followed me into the bathroom.
That's not following.
This has happened at least 10 to 15 times.
Here's the thing. It's just
6 months. Almost a year now.
I don't know where she's at, and so I'll just go like looking around for her, and then
he follows me around the house just in general.
First of all, we moved into a house that's way too big for us, but
well, do you feed him?
He feeds himself.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if you fed him once, yeah, like that's what we do. We're not that smart creatures. If you feed us, we're going to follow you.
It's not even that. It's just pure coincidence. Either that or she spends all of her time when I don't see her in the bathroom, and it just happens to be when I go in there. But you know, I don't know where to transition out of this. We haven't talked about the challenge very much.
Dude, this is a great transition. So so you want to transition to the challenge?
I want to transition into why we only saw you one season, because you were the first guy picked in that season,
and you did really well.
And so the thing was like I had that athletic background, right? But the problem was that format of that challenge, the fresh meat people really had to take a back seat if your partner was vocal, which
yours was.
90% of them were.
Yeah.
The only ones that weren't, I think, were like Jill and maybe CJ. But 90% of the partner, like the alumni, were like super duper vocal.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I was like, look, like I'm ready to win this thing. Like, what do we got to do? And obviously, I didn't understand the politics of the game either. And I also didn't understand reality TV because at that time it wasn't necessarily new by any means, but like I don't think I'd understood the dynamics of what makes good reality television.
Yeah.
So my personality was like, hey, this guy gets along with everybody and he's funny and like he's fun loving and this and that. Well, that does not make good for reality TV.
Not conflict.
And then 2, like the subsequent 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seasons after that, one was like exes and one was like cutthroat. So like it had to be paired up with someone you didn't like or this or that. So basically the module of the format of the game, it didn't work for me. And I think they had called me for one other one and I don't think I was able. And I don't even know when that was. But yeah, so that's majority of the reason, why they never saw me again.
Did you enjoy your time like while you were there?
I had a blast, but I learned this on like, and I think it might just be me, it might be someone else. So I had hosted spring break in South Padre Island for 4 weeks, right? And week 1 and week 2 are like so much fun. You're having the time of your life, you know, everyone's partying, this, that. And it was like day 15, it punches you in the forehead. You're like, this is get me out of here. You're like, I want to go back to normality. I want to go back to my own thing. Like when I can have my freedoms, right? Mm-hmm. I can go to the gym. I can do this. I can do that. I can hang out with my friends, whatever. So on the challenge, it was very similar to where that first 2 weeks, you're just having a good time. There's curveballs, this, that. And you're like constantly working on the political game. And then come week 3, you're like, all right, get me out of here. Like, I can't stand these people. Because, again, they have taken all your personality types. You've taken tests that are like over 100 questions long to see how you are in certain scenarios. Mm-hmm. And then you get this, like, basically like a DNA of your personality. And then they find a DNA that totally, like, goes against that. And they go, all right, you two in a room, have fun. And that's basically what it was. So I had a blast. For me, though, I had Kenny on my challenge. I didn't drink, and Kenny wasn't drinking. And so, like, he became, like, my savior. Because with him, I could, like, talk about everything. The cool part also was, though, was, like, as the weeks went on, you were, like, really hoping someone got kicked out either because they were a threat to your game, or you were like, I just can't stand the way this person talks out loud and their personality and their face. And so you're like, so the room I was in, it had 10 people in it. It had 5 bunk beds. Yeah. It had 10 people in it. And Jen told me to go downstairs. She went upstairs. That way we could keep an ear out for everything. And then by the end, it was just me in a room of 10 and 5 bunk beds. So that was nice, like being by yourself, and it was quiet, not nearly as chaotic. But the entire experience, like, I'm a competitor. I'm the guy that ruins game night with the family. Like, that's just the person I am. It is what it is. But, like, I love competition. So to me, I had a blast.
Yeah, like I feel like that would be my personality, because, like, if I'm going to do something, like, I want to win at it. Like, I don't
exactly.
I don't like who cares? Like, you can do whatever you want, break the rules, whatever. I was like, no. I was like, if there's a winner and a loser, like, I would prefer to be the winner of it.
Exactly. And then also, I also didn't understand how TV production works and how much downtime there is.
And you have no TV or phones or any
of that. No TV, no phone, no books, no pen, no paper, no magazines, no internet, none of that. You were allowed to check your email once a week, and that was it. And sometimes you didn't even get that because whether it was time delayed or this or that. Mm-hmm. And so the way ours went was day 1, you have it's like a 3-day like rotation. So day 1 you have the actual challenge, and then day 2 you have like the voting, or the voting might come after the challenge on day 1. Like, it might come that night. Everybody votes. Day 2 is like whatever it is, whether it's the gauntlet or the exile, whatever they're going. So if you're not one of the 2 groups going to exile or the challenge or like whatever the elimination was, then you weren't doing that day. And then day 3, everyone was to go film like their testimonials to kind of narrate the show in our own words.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you have a day off, and then that was the format. So, but for like your testimonials, like I had the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. slot. So I got to get up, get ready, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and that's it. And I'm doing nothing the rest of the day. And then what they also do is they deliver the liquor, and they might have changed it, right? Because this was 10 years ago. But they deliver the liquor at like 4 or 5 p.m. And they deliver an amount that everyone's going to be able to consume and be done with, because they don't want people drinking all day, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's basically where like reality TV comes into play, is like, how many times have you gone like on a vacation or somewhere with like one of your best friends who like you love to death, or it might be a spouse or somebody. And I mean, COVID's a great example, where like that first 3-4 days, you're like, oh my God, this is great. And then day 5, you're like, I didn't notice this about you, and this really annoys me. And then the way you do this really makes me cringe. And it's like just random little stuff. But the reason is you're together for 24/7. So then what would happen is like, you would try to put up with this person, and then you're like, oh, this annoys me, this whatever. Knock on the door at 5 o'clock. There was like, when it was my season, it was like 100 cans of beer, 6 bottles of vodka, and like 6 bottles of wine. Mm-hmm. And so then everyone gets trashed, and then they go, okay, I'm going to go tell that person how I really feel about them now that I'm hammered. And that's like the basically the format of it all.
And then Jen punched Mandy in the face.
And then Jen lost her mind. Yeah, Jen was like, and it was so funny is that like we didn't do as well as others on athletic stuff because Jen wasn't the most athletic person out there. And then like she went into like CrossFit mode, and now she's like a triathlon beast. And I'm like, why couldn't you have done that in 2010? I could have really used that. Like we got on the finale, it was a bike ride up those ski hills basically, which is tough in itself.
Yeah.
She was like, she couldn't ride her bike. And I was like, when was the last time we rode a bike? She's like, I don't know. I was like, all right.
Yeah. But, I think the alcohol thing is by design. I do think they've cut back on that the last handful of years.
Because
I know that
there's been a lot more awareness and a lot more that's hitting the fan, and we live in a little bit more PC society. So yeah.
And they dye a lot of the alcohol like bright green. So
do they?
Yeah, so that people can't sneak it in other areas. I haven't really kept track of anything, but living in Vegas, everybody comes here. Yeah.
Like, and that's what I told people that like either moved here or whatnot. I'm like, this is the one city that everybody and their mother is eventually going to come to. So it's like, you never have to visit relatives, friends, anybody, because they will come to you, whether you want them to or not. And like random people from 6th grade will be like, hey bro, I see you're killing it in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, and they'll be there next week. And you're like, I haven't talked to you in 2 decades for a reason. What I do know though on my season is they had gotten rid of the dark liquor because apparently they had made the correlation of dark liquor is creating the actual physical fights. And so they got rid of dark liquor before my season. And so then it became like strictly, and I think they replaced it with wine. So they did wine, vodka, and beer.
Yeah.
But I think CT dragged enough faces across walls for them to change what that was.
We are named after when CT almost killed a guy on live TV. Well, not live, but when I think it may
was that what it was? It was called Smashing Heads.
So he got super amped up on the first night of the show.
It was with Adam King, right?
Yeah, it was Adam, and CT was peak, like Wolverine ripped, like he was gonna destroy him. And Adam's like 5'4", and he punched him in the face, and he's yelled he's gonna smash his head and eat it. And then
I remember that.
And so all the big dudes, like there's a lot of big guys on that cast, like Landon and I'm blanking. Darrell may be on there, but like Biggie, like there was a lot of big dudes. They couldn't hold CT back. Like they thought he was going to kill Adam, and CT.
See, then there's always that like, because when that happens, you like can act in the moment, which I did because a producer came and woke me up when it was a Wes, Danny, and Brandon issue going on. Something was going on, and no one was awake to break it up. And so someone came and woke me up, and I run out there in my socks. Side note, don't ever try to break up a fight on hardwood floors with socks on, because I just gonna
slide right by him. Yeah.
Just got pushed to the side. But when those things happen, you're like, if it's your boy or whatnot, you want to break it up, right? But if it's somebody you don't like, you're like, hit him, because if they do, they go home. So it's just kind of like, I wanted to break it up, but it didn't play my advantage. So there is that little like twist of people wanting to and not really breaking it up.
Yeah, I think on that one though, like they were legitimately like, oh, CT's gonna kill a guy, and like there's nothing that we can do about it. And now, like again, you said you haven't kept up with it. He's like everybody's dad. He's not in shape like he used to be.
No, I've seen that. So like, yeah, the circle, when you're in that MTV circle, you kind of don't leave. Like I was literally talking to Mark Long like last week, just chatting with him, and we've kind of constantly kept in touch. And then funny you say it, I'd met Adam here in Vegas. And Adam was actually a really cool dude. And then do you know whose dad is?
Adam's dad?
Yeah.
No. By the way, I didn't really mean he's 5'4". He's probably taller than that. I just don't know.
He's my height.
I don't know what that is.
Let's see here. Adam's dad is or was a singer in the Commodores.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah. So it was like him and let me make sure it was the Commodores because I'm not about to. Yeah, William King.
Okay.
With Lionel Richie. And so he calls him Uncle Lionel. And I learned a lot of cool stuff about him, and he was really cool, really down to earth. Just like a normal adult, you could say.
Yeah. Now I will say, they're CT has. I hated CT back then. I didn't again. He just was a bully. Completely.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like him.
I love CT now. He has done a complete 180 on everything, and he's just again. He is one of those that's like a lifer at this point. He's done 20 of them.
But I've seen clips of him where he's been showing his emotion, and I think he had that wedding, and because he has a kid too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And he doesn't slur his words, and he makes
he went through a lot of dark things that played out on TV. He had some family things. I think his brother was killed right before the thing with Adam, and he was not in the right headspace to be around people who were all just drinking and trying to provoke each other and all that.
And then he lost DM.
Yeah, and then the whole DM situation. I think that's what really changed him was the DM situation.
There's also you really have to have your head in a proper, stable mind before going into something like that.
Yeah.
Because it will be a toxic environment. There will be, you're basically going to a high school locker room where people are going to talk shit about you that you do not know, and they don't know you. And so you have to have a healthy frame of mind before you go in there. If you are volatile or have triggers, one, the cast will sniff it out like this, and two, they're going to expose it, and you're going to look like a dumb or something's going to happen. So mental health is super important when going into that mess.
Yeah, and I think they've done a better job probably with that in the last handful of years. One of our favorite people, and we've talked with him is Wes. From you know him from your season, but his whole game was to push people and see where you were if you could handle things. And
what I hated about Wes was so I'd met him on the show obviously, and I didn't like the way he played the game, but when we had conversations it was totally normal.
Yeah,
but I just didn't like his decisions he made. Then he was dating Kellyanne at the time, and Kellyanne lived in Austin down the street from me, and I used to hang out with Kellie all the time. And then I meet him in Austin, and we have a ton of things in common, and he's super nice, and we got along great, and we were good friends. And then it's he gets on the show, and I'm can't you just be who you were?
He definitely understands.
It's obviously worked out for him.
He understands he has a persona on the show,
right?
And him and Johnny both play into it and all that.
Right.
So when was the last time that you probably watched anything challenge related?
10 years ago.
Really? So your season.
Right, but I stay in you just can't get away from it.
Oh yeah.
You're constantly in the loop, or people are constantly tweeting random at me, and I'm and then I'll literally get so much traction from it that I'm I'll text Brandon or the people I talk to relatively frequently is Leroy, Brandon, Vinny. Vinny Fodi, he goes to my gym. I see him all the time.
Is he doing better? I know he had major heart failure a while back.
Yeah, he almost died.
Yeah,
he almost died, and now he's lost he's lost a lot of weight. He's lost a lot of weight, and he's still the dude's an animal now. He rides I don't know, 5, 10, 15 miles to the gym, then lifts, then rides his bike back. So wow. I see him a lot, and he's doing great. But with those guys, I'll get the when Johnny screwed over Sarah. I learned about that. And then I learned about whoever the Psycho Turbo is, who apparently just murders everyone. The whole Johnny taking the money from Sarah thing. But yeah, I get little inklings, little sprinkles of what the hell's going on here and there.
Did you know what it was before you were cast on it, or were you just strictly applying for the Real World?
No, I strictly applied for Real World. Then they called me, and they go, a year and a half later, they go, would you want to be on the challenge?
But did you know what it was? Did you know what the challenge was?
I did, because the only thing prior that had brought in new blood was Fresh Meat 1.
Okay.
So I was this has to be Fresh Meat 2. I get on my plane. We fly to Seattle, where all the other cast members are. And there's this rumor, and I don't know if it's true, but I think it might be. Because when we got to Seattle, they go, hey, this is your group. Don't talk to anybody. So obviously we're talking.
Yeah.
And we're staring at each other. And then we get our tickets and it says Vancouver. So I remember a lot of us were bummed because we were like, wah, wah. It's like, you see South Africa and Prague and Australia. And it's like, you're going 30-minute flight this way. So we get to customs, and I remember them being like, look, just don't say, like, nobody mentioned the brand, nobody mentioned MTV, this, that. Just let them know you're filming this. And then Canada has rules against DUIs and stuff. So 2 of the people got stuck in customs. So we all had to kind of sit there, and we were like, So it finally got done, and it was like, real like, hey, I'm here for work. Hey, have a great day. Like, you couldn't really tell anybody what you're doing. Then when we get there, we see that 90% of the challenges are water challenges. And so through like the grapevine, I heard basically it was supposed to be in Australia, which it was summer in Australia at the time. And I guess something happened with the labor laws and they weren't able to do it there. So I think the quick fix was to go to Vancouver and then go to Whistler. And then also MTV doesn't have, I don't know what MTV's scenario is with Whistler in itself, the actual city. So we could only say British Columbia. We had to say the entire region. We could never say Whistler, which is also interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so then, all of our water challenges were like in 40-degree water with like, there was 2 challenges that were on in a bay, and there were sea lions under us, and there were orcas in the distance. And I was like, hey, those eat these. Why are we here? I don't think anyone thought this through the whole way. And sea lions, I'm not sure if you've seen a sea lion. They're huge.
Yeah, they're big.
They're like,
really big.
They're like 7 feet tall and like 300 pounds. They're not a small thing. So, but yeah, so we all went up there and then like when we got there, obviously you saw what happened with the tent and all. And that's when we all kind of put 2 and 2 together. And also when they gave us our jerseys and whatnot. And it was cool. We got to take a seaplane there. And then when it was game time, we get to meet our partners. We go to the house, and then Paula and all the veterans were like, who had been there for 8, 9, 10 seasons, were like, this is the most insane house ever.
Yeah.
Which definitely made the cast feel a lot better, because I remember like Sandy was from Seattle, so like she like drove to meet us at the airport. Like she didn't even have to go anywhere.
She was another one that didn't do any other seasons after that.
Right. Yeah. And so like some people were kind of like bummed that it was so close. And then we saw the house and how sick it was. And like once we got to see everything, we're like, all right, this is dope.
Yeah, Jake, I may not be remembering right, but I don't remember another season just like in the snow like this.
Well, there's been, couple in the finals. Wasn't Extras 2
where they went up to the mountain, but that was a location change. It wasn't like they were in a cabin like secluded the whole time. There may be, I may just be misremembering.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be brutal, right? Like doing all this stuff in the cold. I know I just ran one of these Savage races in Georgia, which is all great and fun in the warm and the heat, but like watching you guys do this stuff in what seems to us to be like extremely cold has to be brutal on like all your limbs and extremities and everything, right?
I mean, it was cold, but like so what they did is they build all the props and the design before going, and then they ship everything there, and they rebuild everything. And so we had the thing that hung over the sticks that you had to swing along that hung over water, and the ladder you had to go across that hung over water, and then you had to dive in the water to go up that stupid mountain climbing thing that was in water.
Is that the thing that Katelin got hurt on? Like which is
hilarious. Which like that's another. Okay, just a quick touch on that is like that girl came in so damn cocky.
Yeah,
and even her interviews showed how cocky she was. She was like, I do this, and this, and that, and so like to watch her get silenced was hilarious.
When
she did that she was on Arrival season 2, right? And she did came in with the same sort of attitude.
I just remember. I remember when we were watching Fresh Meat 2. We watched it, Hannah and I, because Jake and I started watching the challenge back in like the early 2000s. Hannah didn't start until about 5 years ago, so she missed all of this. And so we went back and watched Fresh Meat too, and I was like, Katelin is acting like she's like done all this stuff, and I was like one of the big names. Dude, and I was like
the whole
nothing's happened yet.
I'm used to blind fighting. I'm like, chill. Like no one's blind fighting. Like you're not a vigilante taking down people in the alleys of New York. Like just she like her helmet wouldn't fit, and her helmet kept like doing this number, and it was just like the poor girl was getting everything thrown at her. But frankly, we lived with her and we heard her all the time. We're like, well, we kind of deserve it. So that's why we didn't really feel bad about it.
Yeah, she was.
But then you saw that. Good?
She was on the first Rival season, teamed up with Sarah.
Oh yeah, so, that's right. Yeah, because they were on Real World Brooklyn, which you almost were on.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's another curveball. It's like maybe I would have lost my shit living with this girl for 6 months. So I would have gone crazy. And then, that second challenge we had was you had to go underwater and hold that chest up. So, and that was frigid too. So right off the bat, we were like, the Australia rumors made sense or they just wanted to watch us freeze.
I think they went back to, I think they went to Australia for Battle of the Seasons, which was like 2012. So like not long after.
Yeah, a couple years after us.
And actually there was a Fresh Meat team, which had to replace the Real World Austin because there was some customs issues and apparently some contraband that tried to be snuck in.
Yeah, they usually try to sneak the cocaine in every time.
Yeah, and at the last minute, like Cara and like Big Easy and like all these random like Fresh Meat like conglomeration, like they came together and they just had like tape on their shirts and it said Fresh Meat, and they showed up a day late. It was real weird.
That was what, Battle of the Seasons?
Yeah, that was 2012. So it may have filmed in 2011. So it wasn't long after.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and the thing was, like, what's crazy looking back on your season was, like, Cara obviously is like one of the faces of the show, and she's teamed up with Darrell, who's like a legend on it, and they go home first, and like
and that was a big thing. And the cool part was like I said, they were there for 3 days. Once we all came together and we were in that house, it was only 3 days. In those 3 days, though, like me and Darrell kicked it every single minute. And like, for some reason, we were just vibing. And I was also an athlete at the time. He was a boxer. So like, we had been working out every single day for those 3 days. So we created this like tight knit bond. And then obviously it ended pretty quickly. And then afterwards, we still stay in touch. And then he comes to visits here like every few years. So I actually stayed in touch with him. But yeah, Cara was like gone. And good for MTV for being able to like kind of see something in her, because next thing you know, she's the face of the franchise basically.
Yeah, she's kind of taken another turn these days.
What happened now?
She's just not the same as what she was back then. Kind of taking on a more like villain role almost.
So I've heard, like, I keep again on that damn Twitter. It was like something between her and Kayla, right?
There's
probably did happen.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's always it's the thing that a lot of people, because we were fans of Cara or whatever when we started this podcast. Ironically, is when the kind of turn started, and it's like everyone is always a victim. I mean, she's always a victim to everybody else, but then she does all. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, poor me, but.
Is she like, is her head gotten big or no?
It's just different, man. You would have to just go back and watch, and I can guarantee.
Okay, I like how you're trying to be politically correct, and you don't want to say your true emotions. I get it. For the Smashing Heads podcast,
no.
I get it. Smart play.
No, it's not that at all. We've interviewed her current boyfriend, who also a lot of people say is kind of a head case, but we had a lot of fun with him.
Which one's that?
Pauly from Big Brother.
Wait, sorry, I have a computer right here. The tall dude?
I mean, I don't know. He's not very
tall.
What's his last name?
Calafiore. Yeah. I was very vocal on how I felt about Pauly, and then he reached out to us. I was like, hey, let's talk it out. And I was like, all right. And so and honestly, we did have a good conversation. I I felt like,
but he's one of those guys who I think he recognizes like what his role is on TV. Like he understands like he has to play some sort of role to be able to be sustained on television
to an extent. And then there's also a side of it where I think he thinks he's God's gift to the challenge, and it's not happened yet.
But like also, yeah, like Jake said, is like every now and then they do go into this character mode, knowing they're going to get the screen time, because the more screen time you get, the more traction
and the more
you're going to be
asked back. The more
seasons you're on, I remember my edit. I looked like a super like cocky douche, and like they had asked me what to say, or they were like, and so I go, look, I play for the Australian rules U.S. national team, and they were like, well, do you guys win a lot? And I was like, we're used to winning. I was like, we've been undefeated for 4 years. I was like, we never lose. And then the edit got turned into like, hi, my name is Noor from Austin, Texas. I never lose. I'm like, what a douche.
Wait, okay, so what did you play for?
So I played Australian rules football. So I was playing college soccer, and then I played like semi-pro soccer. And then my roommate, who was Australian, got me into Australian rules football. And then the transition was kind of smooth. I still can't.
I used to watch it at like 2 a.m. on ESPN because I couldn't sleep.
Yep.
Like the All Blacks and I can't even remember the other teams. But
so now you're talking about rugby. You're talking about,
is it rugby?
So there's rugby and there's Australian rules football.
Yeah.
Rugby is a little bit more like football, where it's a line-to-line based game. Where Australian rules football is like the 2 big sticks that they kick it through, and the guy like puts his little guns up like that. Aussie rules is more fun because it's more free flowing. There's not as much stoppages, and also there's a lot more hitting. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so I played that, and then I ended up getting picked up by the U.S. national team, and then I played for them for 7 or 8 years. And now I just eat donuts every day, which is awesome, and I'm really happy about it.
It sounds like you're living the life.
I mean, to an extent, like, too bad COVID's here, and because Vegas is like it's definitely a fun city. Like I said, everybody comes and visits you, and that's what it was I used to work with Kayla's boyfriend, Mikey P.
Yeah. Ex-boyfriend.
And so Kayla would always show up, and that's how I got like I said, like, you can't just leave the circle. Like, the shit just keeps slowly flying in. But what's cool is you can reconnect with people too. So like, I was on that episode in 2010. Fast forward to 2018, I live in Hollywood. Who lives down the street from me? Kellyanne. Who lives down the other way? Nehemiah. And so like, we went and had lunch, and I'd see Kellyanne walking her dogs all the time. So like, there is that fun aspect as well, where you kind of like get to reconnect with a bunch of people. But yeah.
You're all in this like weird, almost like fraternity of like an experience that a lot of people will never understand, and so it's kind of like they get what you've been through.
You know what? The closest thing to it is quarantine COVID. Is the closest thing to it, because you're with, and especially in COVID, you're with people you love. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's not natural for 2 humans to be together 24/7. It's just not how humans are built. So like, if you've been in COVID and you've been quarantined with someone, and after like day 3, you're like, do you always chew like that? Like, you're just picking at random little. That's the challenge. Like, it's a very social mind. What I recently got into 2 years ago was Survivor.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen before.
Really?
And I had watched that, and I was like, whoa. I was like, this is some real psychological mind, because in the sense that the idea is, and if even for me, it's like, if I one day try and maybe I make it on the Survivor, right? I'm going with, hey, I'm gonna lie to A, B, and C, and I can't wait to stab this guy's back and that guy's back and that guy's back, right?
You're like, I want to be the villain.
Right, but what people don't understand is, like, I can say that right now, right? And then I can go to my job, and then I can go have drinks with friends, I can go golfing, I can do that, right? But when I go to that island, these people who I was going to stab in the real world are now my entire world. And everything else is gone. I can't go have a good time now. I can't go to dinner. I can't go golf. now these people are my entire world, and people that I want to lie to and stab, this is the only thing that exists around me now. So it really throws that like psychological spin to it. I mean, maybe one day I'll try it for that show, because it seems real. I mean, it's a full-blown psychological experiment. But
I haven't watched Survivor since like the first 3 or 4 seasons. I really liked it back then. If I was going to watch another show, like obviously we have to watch a lot of The Challenge because it's what we talk about. So it's kind of hard to commit to another show like that. But it would be Survivor. 100%. I wouldn't like Big Brother and some of these other ones. I really did enjoy like the political side, and like people are literally like their bodies eating themselves because they're only eating rice all day long, and like you have to.
Yeah, it's so strange. And then you get, like I said, that whole reality frat that you're talking about. When I was, well, it's funny, this shirt right here, I used to work at a place called Hyde on Sunset, which my friend Jess, she ended up going on there, and then she met her husband on there, and they went on an Amazing Race and won that.
Oh wow.
I forget Jess's name. And then my buddy Memphis, who I worked with here in LA, is now on Big Brother All Stars this week, which I've also never watched Big Brother, so I don't understand that.
We've heard a lot about Memphis just randomly because we live like an hour outside Memphis. It's not been good reports from the people that watch Big Brother. I'll let you know that.
Apparently he might have said a word the other day. Apparently,
we don't watch it, so I don't know what was said, but I know people were like, "Hey, let's not associate our Memphis with that right now."
CBS came out and said he didn't say it, and then like you watch the video, and then everybody kind of makes up their own opinion. But I know him as a person, and I've known him for a very, very long time, and he's always been a good dude. But yeah, he's on his own.
See, I don't even know the situation. I just have seen the name and whatever. So let's
you can actually watch it on TMZ. That's how.
If it makes it there, then it's not something you probably want to.
I mean, when 9 million people see it, yeah, it gets some attention.
Well, you said you wanted to possibly be on Survivor one day. I want to know how you obviously play golf, but I want to know how you transitioned to somehow end up being on Holey Moley.
So the funny part about that is I've always played golf my entire life, and I lived in LA, and I was doing the acting thing, and I'm not sure if you ever live by yourself, like you have your little space and this and that, and you do your thing, and there's little things, especially when you live by yourself. It's in a city that like you don't have family, and you're like out on your own, especially if it's a new city, which was a scenario for me. There's little things that like bring extra joy, right? And so like when I was in LA, like I had all the friends in the world and whatnot, but like I didn't have family out there, and like I was living by myself. So I was always used to like living with a pack of people and this and that. And so I started watching Holey Moley, which like to me was hilarious because of all the dry humor between the commentators and like the under radar adult jokes that no one really caught. And it's basically destiny, because I end up going to this audition for a cell phone commercial, right? The casting director happens to be my wife's best friend.
Okay.
So they obviously cast me, and I play this like head chef, and I have these 3 like executive chefs with me in the phone commercial. And when you go on like a shoot, it's just like I said, with all that downtime, you're literally sitting there with these people for the next 12 hours, and you get to know them because there's nothing else to do, and you exchange contact information, and you think you're going to become best friends. You never see them again.
Networking.
But, exactly, you network. And so I add the guy on Instagram. I'm watching my favorite show, Holey Moley. 2 weeks later, my line cook is a contestant on Holey Moley. And I was like, I love this show. And he was like, you should send a video to this producer. And I was like, I've done this before, so I know this route. So I do it, and next thing you know, I got on the show, which was awesome. But also this time, I also knew what they wanted and what they needed because I'd been down that road. One, I knew how long that process was because they started the interviews in October for me, and I didn't get finalized till mid-February.
Wow.
But I knew, like, hey, big face, energy, be from somewhere, represented.
Cowboy hat.
affirmative action, throw a little diversity in there.
So what's funny is I don't think we talked about it since we started recording, but I told you beforehand that I didn't know you were on it. And what I'll do is at late at night, Hannah will go to sleep or whatever, and then I'll just kind of be on my computer or whatever, and I'll just put something on. And I was watching Holey Moley because like, oh, I like Rob Riggle, and let's see what happens. And then I saw your face as the thumbnail for the newest episode, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, that's Noor. I was like, I haven't seen him in like 8 years. I was like, but that's Noor because I follow him on Instagram, and I was like, I know his beard's bigger. And so I clicked on it, and I was like, sure enough, that's Noor. And I was like, what is happening here? And Hannah watched it with me last night, the episode you were on.
It was really good.
She was like, is he playing up his Texas accent a lot? And I was like, I think so.
Probably was. Yeah. Probably was. Well, I mean, when I drink, it sounds like that. But also when you dress like that, I think you have to talk like that.
It's
required. You were wearing a bolo tie.
Oh, 100%. We were going all in. So the funny part was I am doing – so with that show, they basically want to – they make characters out of you, right?
Yes.
So they'll talk to you and they're like, all right, you're from Nashville and you're married and you got 2 dogs and tell us a little bit more about you. And then they'll try to find something that you're into, and you might make the mistake of saying, man, like, yeah, she cooks bacon every day. I love bacon. That's my thing.
They'll call you Bacon Boy.
Bam.
Yeah.
And now they've dressed you as a giant piece of bacon. Yeah. I'm in Miami and we're doing an event for the Super Bowl. So I work with a couple other buddies, and basically, long story short, this company builds a warehouse. They sell it to AT&T. AT&T brings like Lady Gaga, and like they bring 5,000 of their subsidiaries, like Fox News and like whoever's on MTV and whoever's under there, and all those execs show up. And then we put on a show during the weekend, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, leading to the Super Bowl. So it's that Friday night. I have Lizzo and Harry Styles. Lizzo goes on. Side note, there's been girls camping out since Wednesday for this show. And I didn't know Harry Styles had that big of a following. Whatever. Lizzo goes on. I go outside. We have 10,000 people inside. The fire marshal's there. I don't know why the fire marshal here. It's getting windy. And I get a phone call from LA. And I'm like, pick it up. It's my producer for Holey Moley. He's like, hey, man, we're just trying to get to know more about you, this, that. I'm like, all right, what do you want to know? And the fire marshal's like, we have to evacuate. And I'm like, huh? And I'm trying to talk to this guy, and I'm like, look, and I can't tell like the producer of this show to go off because it's like
you're trying to,
because I obviously want to be on the show, right? And I'm like, well, I was wondering, I was in Texas. He's like, can we make you a cowboy? I'm like, I'm not gonna look like your regular cowboy, but yeah, you can make me a cowboy. And he's like, great, hangs up. And I go over here, and next thing you know, we had to evacuate 10,000 people into a hurricane because our pop-up was not hurricane-proof. It was 80-mile-an-hour proof, and the winds that were coming were 100 mile an hour. And it got hectic. And so, like, that's a whole nother story. So I get off the phone with this guy, like, whatever, and then I get there, and what's cool is they go, hey, pick, we're going to send you a couple websites. Pick the apparel that you want. We're going to order it for you. When you get here, you can try it on. You'll have, like, a dope fit. Yeah. And what they had relayed to me was like, hey, my name's Noor. I'll be my cowboy outfit. Then when I can compete in golf wear. That didn't happen. So so I get there. It's like, and it's the same set as that show Wipeout, that Japanese show where like people fall everywhere. It's in the hills of Santa Clarita. So it's like a 20-minute drive from the city. You're in the BFE. You're in the middle of nowhere. Our call time was like 4 o'clock. I get there, go to wardrobe. I see the stuff I ordered. I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm like, do I try these on? They're like, no, you're trying this on. I was like, huh?
Oh, so they gave you different clothes than what you picked out?
I saw the clothes that I had ordered, and they were like, oh, by the way, you're wearing this. And it's like a full cowboy getup. And the hat and the shoes were actually in my car. And I was like, hey, I got some time that might just go with this outfit because, I mean, while we're here, let's just do it, right? And it's like 85 degrees. So I get in the jacket on, I'm like sweating. I'm like, dude, this sucks. And they're like, don't worry, you'll be happy. I was like, no, I won't. So we have this holding tent that basically looks like you run like bar mitzvahs out of it. It's just like this old janky tent, right? And we don't start filming. It's a night shoot. So it starts at 10 p.m. and ends at 5 a.m. And at 10 p.m., the weather goes to right about 50. And at midnight, it goes in the 40s.
Well, we saw when you guys were breathing, there was like, you could see your breath on it.
it was, you know, the funny part is like in my reality TV career, I got to the finale, I lost all the money, and it was cold on both shows.
Yeah.
So it was 44 degrees. The weather was, or the water was the same. But it was a really good time. It was a lot of fun. I knew, like, luckily I knew there would be a lot of downtime because of that and because like the acting stuff I did in LA. So, and luckily, like, and then I knew how everything worked. So I knew like the PAs are the production assistant is my easiest access to what I need. And they're also the most persuadable. So like I got like the exec Wi-Fi password while I was there. And so then in the tent, I was the only one that was like on my phone and able to like use my phone, which was nice. But yeah, that was like a blast. It was shot last week of February, I want to say. Had a great time. Ended up losing, whatever. And there's a reason I think I lost, but that's another story. And then we wrapped up, and Steph Curry had actually messed his hand up during the NBA season. If you remember, he had broken his hand.
Yeah.
So obviously the NBA didn't want him hitting any golf clubs just for that. So they're like, you can do the jacket presentation this year. And then, you know, just kind of dabble. They're like, all right. So they schedule it for him to come in, and we're going to film the jacket presentation outside. It ends up storming that day. So the show's over. We already know who won. Everything's said and done. We're all kind of in our own cities or wherever we live. They're like, we're going to fly you in to do the jackets, whatnot. And then the next day it starts storming. So Steph can't come anymore. And the day after, COVID shut down the country. So that's kind of what happened there.
You became a cartoon at the end of your episode. And I was like, I was like, they did this because they couldn't get everybody together.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's where animated Steph Curry came from.
Yeah, I figured it was something like that. Like he just couldn't make it out, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just do voiceover and wing it."
Exactly. And so then everybody had to do their voiceovers. And I remember I took edibles that night, and I forgot to do it. And then I got a text that night, and they were like, "Hey, we need your voiceover." And I was like, "Oh," and I just, it's on the phone I'm talking to you guys on. It's literally like, we're cooking with peanut oil now, y'all. It's just the most redneck.
Yeah. There's a loud yeehaw in there. I know that.
There was.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, and that's also my other persona when I get a little too under the influences. Then yeah, the country will come out. I'll start singing and remembering where I was raised. But
I love it.
But yeah.
The thing is, like, with your episode, you did the weird high dive thing, and you know, you flipped into a pool with a cowboy hat on, and I don't figure you've ever done that before.
No.
And
I also hadn't been on a diving board in 10 years. I'm not sure if any of you all have, but those things are so springy and flimsy, and I like wasn't confident in flying off that. So yeah.
You got the full rotation though.
I can definitely. So for some reason, I watched the girl in front of me, and she like, because you jump and then jump again off.
Yes.
And for some reason, she like stayed and then kind of like flopped off, and then for some dumb reason, I was like, that's the way I should do it. but also like, so the thing about that, very similar. Well, at least the challenge, you get to hang out for 3 days. The thing about Holey Moley was, you go and they go, and so in the beginning of the day, like when everybody arrives at the tent, they take you in 2 groups, and they go, hey, you guys are on this hole, you guys are on this hole today. They'll let you look at it, and then they'll go, okay, you guys can putt 1 ball real quick just to get a feel for it. So you putt once, and that's it. Then you go back in the tent, you sit around for 6 hours, and they go, hey, you're up, and you go right on the diving board, and then it's showtime. Yeah. And if you miss, you're going home.
Yeah. How long was the delay, like, between your first episode and then when they brought you back? Like, was it like the same day, next day, or was it
next day? So they shot for 2 weeks. Everything was shot for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And every day it's 2 holes that they're shooting, and you rarely will do more than 1 hole, but every now and then you do.
Yeah.
I remember Tanner had 2 holes in one night, but I had 1 hole every single day until the semifinal, and then that was a brand new day as well, and then I lost that.
Yeah, I will say you kind of got screwed on your final hole because it's just there's no like skill, like it's just like you're upside down with a magnetic ball.
Okay, so here's where it comes to in that, because there's a lot of professional golfers and you see them not winning, right?
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is, those aren't golf professionals that are building those holes. Those are prop designers.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of wood and then carpet laid over it, stretched out, and then it's not going to read like a real green. So like some people online will be like, oh, I saw like a magnetic ball that was doing this, that. No, that's just how janky it was set up.
I meant you had the magnetic ball on your stand, not.
So
on the...
okay, so I had the magnetic ball, right?
Yes.
Here's what happens with that. They just finished constructing it just for me, Mallory, and Chris. And they just finished it, and we go, hey, can we test it? They go, no, we don't have any time. They go, great. So we get on there. We do that nauseous diarrhea thing. I hit mine, and I hit mine purposely the way I hit it because those two were just wanking at it. And it was going to the left. And I knew that I had to turn my club face in and hit it directly towards the hole. So my ball went, you'll see it goes directly at the hole, and like even the announcers get excited. I get to my putt. I'm about to putt. And then I look at the carpet and I'm like, and I take my putter and I push down, and there's a big bubble that pushes down, and this bubble pushes back up, and it's a long bubble across the line that I have to putt on. And I go, there's no way I can make this putt. And I look over at course marshal Joe and I'm like, I can't make this putt at all. There's a giant bubble right here. And they all just look at me, including like 300 spectators. I'm like, all right, I'll go myself. Sorry, guys. And so if you watch my putt, you'll see the ball go over a hill that you can't see.
Yeah.
So you'll have to rewatch it. But it's like, that's the way it goes sometimes, right? It's like,
it's TV.
Like, everything happens for a reason.
It's not like a real competition. Yeah. I mean, it is for money, which sucks.
And that was the weird part on that one was they had to treat it like, so these big money competitions now have a legal team that goes everywhere to make sure nothing is rigged, because there was that rigging in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire years ago where a guy was basically relaying answers through his earpiece. So this team basically goes everywhere with you and make sure no one has any advantage at all. So they also treated this like a golf tournament. So like at the challenge, you get paid, you get flown out, this, that. This, everybody had to pay for their own because there was $250,000 at stake.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So like, it was like, does it suck? Yeah, whoop-de-doo. But is that how the cookie crumbles? It is. And here we are talking to you guys about it.
My only other Holey Moley question is, do you really call yourself the Sultan of Swing, or did they give you that nickname?
So, no, so I'm literally on the golf course with a buddy of mine. We call him the polar bear because he's like 60 and white and old. And so, and the Sultan of Swing comes on, and I just had him film some stuff for my audition. Is my camera shaking by any chance?
No.
Okay, it's just my table.
Yeah.
So we just gotten done filming, and then I was like, yeah, it's gotta, like they need characters and this and that. And then we're golfing, and Dire Straits comes on, and he looks at me, he's like, you look like kind of like a Sultan of Swing, you know that? And it was meant in totally like a roast me fashion. And I was like, that's the name. It's Sultan of Swing. And so, because it worked with like the way I look, and you're swinging a golf club, and
yeah,
it was like the perfect name. And ever since then, every golf course I go to, they're all my buddies that work there, so they all just roast me into Sultan of Swing. So now, but then also like if I beat someone, then I'll yell it, and so.
It's not a short nickname, so it doesn't have that like punch in the face as like a.
It doesn't have that punch, but it's like, it's a title.
Yeah.
It's a title. I wear it proudly.
You should have it on a plaque.
Did you really?
We got golden putters.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you actually get a jacket and a putter like the?
You got a jacket. You got a golden putter. The putter might not be as pretty as you would expect it to be. So
it's probably a PA spray painted them, honestly.
And so a couple of us redid our putters. I do need to redo mine, but they're great. I mean, they're $250 like Odyssey putters. They're great. You just gotta make it look prettier. That's all.
Well, I don't want to get you into trouble if they ever do like, hey, let's bring back our favorites in season 3 or something like that. So we'll move on from there.
Right. Well, no, I mean, I got nothing but love for them. It was such a good time. The PAs were awesome. That tent was a nightmare. We all had, like, the PA would go to Walgreens and buy us electrical blankets, and we were all plugged into like the same outlet that God knows how we didn't just start an electrical fire. And we had this like couch from like a 70s porn set that we all just piled into. But it was fun. Like it was an experience. And looking at the way the year's gone, you could easily say it was a highlight.
Yeah. I mean, you beat a professional Polish, also jiu-jitsu master or something.
Dude, she was not nice. Like everybody was so happy when I won. Cause cause you're in that tent and you're in a holding facility for 8 hours. So like you're talking to everybody and you're chatting and learning people's stories. And she was just like, yeah, I'm a big deal. And everyone's like, God, I'm nervous. And she was like, why would I be nervous? Like I putt in front of thousands of people all the time. And then she leaves a putt short. I was like, well, kick rocks.
You almost got you almost got the hole in one. And then she was coming up behind you, and then you're like, your little voiceovers were like, oh God, she's really good.
Oh, I knew my mic was on. I was like, because she could putt.
Yeah.
She was a very good putter. Don't get me wrong at all. But I was praying to God that she caught CTE to the side of her dome and just went in that water. But somehow that little got through. I don't know how.
Yeah, you guys both made it through.
I was wanting her to get just a new hip after that, but it didn't go in my favor. But there was some really good hits. Oh, and yeah, something that they don't tell was both of those windmills. So the second windmill is relatively slower. I'm not sure if you can tell that when watching.
Yeah.
They did say that the first one was the hardest one to get through.
Right. But initially, both were going very fast at the same speed. The first girl that went through got cleaned out by the first one. When she went through the second one, she went straight to the hospital and no one ever saw her again.
Wait, when you were filming?
Yes, she was the very first person to go.
Okay, yeah.
Which caused a change in the entire hole, and we don't know what happened to that girl. All I know is that they offered her, like, they were like, do you want to come back and, like, be in the crowd? She was like, and that shark was fiberglass.
Oh. Which
people don't understand either. So there's a lady in all black, and you see her lay out, and she cracked 4 ribs.
Oh, my God.
And she got a concussion.
I'm assuming you guys have to sign liability waivers. That's like, hey, no matter what happens to us, you're not responsible.
Like you like literally, it's like you could die and your family that's there could die and you can't do anything. Like those waivers are ironclad. The MTV one for the challenge is it's 80 pages. Well, back in my day, it was 80 pages, God. and you have to initial every single page.
Wow.
So it's intense.
Yeah, that's a lot.
A lot bigger than I expected. Bring it up. It's in my Gmail somewhere.
They will not like you doing that or sharing that or anything. I can tell you, production's really cut down on. They do not like to talk about the behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're just so. Let me just spill it all for you.
Well, we got a Patreon, like I told you earlier, and we have a handful of questions. We've actually covered a decent amount of it because just kind of like naturally they're asked if you got cast for the real world and all that type of stuff. But I'm going to go through some questions, and if you want to plead the fifth on anything, go for it. I've kind of pre-screened them, so I don't think it's anything too crazy.
All right, give it to me.
So we can go from there. So Grimm says, who wins in a putt-putt competition between you and Tiger Woods?
In a putt-putt competition, me, hands down.
Yeah, not nice greens and putting on that, like plywood.
If it's
and
a nice
AstroTurf.
green, Tiger's gonna rail me. If there's a windmill involved, I got this. And because you see all the professional golfers, they don't do well on that because they're like trying to do proper reads. And the fact of the matter is, like, it's carpet with wood under it. You're not putting on like an actual green, so that's why the professional golfers really don't do that well, and you can see them get frustrated. But me and Tiger, if it's a real green, Tiger's beating me. If it's Holey Moley, you can kick rocks.
Yeah, I that's what kind of I figured you'd say because, it's Tiger's not used to having clowns pie him in the face and all that type of stuff.
Exactly. That and like you can challenge me to anything and I'll say yes. That's my problem.
Paul says, are the rumors of you licking members of the production true?
All right. Let's talk about that.
Let's go.
So it was like 3 a.m. and for some reason, like we would do like all sorts of different accents. And so I was doing a bit from Troy where, and by the way, like, so if we're all in a room like this, right? There'll be like a camera right here with like a sound guy and a PA, and then like one right here. So there's like 4 people in the room you can't see. And then it's all angled so you can't see these 2 people over here. So everyone's like kind of close together. And I forget her name. Anyway, I was doing a bit from Troy, and it's that part where like he smells the girl's hair and he deems her royalty. And I do this like comedic bit where like I smell the hair and I'm like, yeah, she's royalty, or she's showered or whatever. And so like I smell it and I taste her hair, which was like, let's be honest, looking back at it, what the was I doing? But I literally was like, I take her hair and I'm like, it's royalty, you know, like, and I'm talking this English accent the entire night. And so then after, like, every now and then the production will come and have like a meeting, which is basically just like who got fined, right? And so they fine you for things that if you do something wrong, like something they don't tell you to, or if you break something, and they give you a fine. And I believe I got $1,000 fine. I think I did. And I think her name was Tiffany. And the funny part was like it was all like, none of it was like offensive. It was all like a bit, like we were just acting, like nothing, none of it was like, let me lick your hair and taste it. Like, no, why would I want to do that? And the funny part was she was getting married in like 6 weeks, and she had a ring on her hand that she hadn't been able to get off for 8 years. And she came to me for help. And I was able to get, and so like, I was the one that helped her get the ring off her hand. And like, I was close with all the production towards the end of it. And what's really funny is you guys bring that up. 2 of the production members sent me a message yesterday, and I didn't know who they were. And I had to like go through like my message history, and they were actually PAs from Vancouver. But yeah, did I lick someone's hair in a Troy bit where I was acting like brown Brad Pitt? 100%. Did I get fined $1,000? 100%. Would I do it again if I had alcohol? 100%.
Man, $1,000.
It was a great bit.
I hope so, for $1,000 at 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
at 3 in the morning,
like,
everything's kind
like,
of a good bit.
Yeah, all of us were like, "What? 1,000? Huh?" And then it was like, someone else got fined for ripping the door frame off because they were trying to do pull-ups. Like everybody got all sorts of fines. The one fine I didn't get, which we got lucky, was there's a massive rule about not feeding the wildlife or doing anything to get the wild. Like, don't leave anything outside because the bears show up.
Yeah.
And me and Kenny would wait for production to go to bed, and we'd go straight to the balcony, and we'd fire off salami into the driveway and into the backyard, praying that a bear shows up. And a black bear finally showed up during, like, one at night and then one during the actual filming. So we probably should have gotten fined for that, 100%.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with a bear attack on MTV's budget.
Somebody dying.
mean, you already signed your life away. Let's roll these dice. Let's get some live action.
Yeah, you're lucky that it's not Grizzlies, because again, we're near Memphis, so we're Memphis Grizzlies fans. But that started Vancouver Grizzlies because they have Grizzlies up there.
Oh, is Memphis from Vancouver?
The team was originally in the 90s. Yeah,
I guess they are. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were Grizzlies that we saw from a distance, but that was like when we were driving somewhere. We never got to have one chase anybody, unfortunately.
Yeah, that would have been good.
But there was like, if you went on, it was there was a rule that like, if you wanted to go on a run, you could, but you had to take someone with you. And then they realized people were conspiring. So they're like, all right, everybody has to run by themselves. But then they showed us where, and they're like, wear bear whistle or bear bells on your shoes, and some other. And then everyone was like, I don't want to go running anymore. Like,
yeah, we went on our honeymoon in the mountains, and we almost bought bear bells, and then we kind of researched, and some people were like, yeah, they work, and the other ones were like, also, they might just attract more bears because they just are curious as what's going on. So
right,
that's kind of up in there. Ryan said, how'd you feel about the final and its difficulty? How'd you feel about Landon and Carly winning? I know you said you lived with Carly, so I'm assuming you're kind of close with her.
So Carly stated she was like a good athlete. She was okay. She wasn't like Laurel was by far the best female athlete. And Kari was actually pretty good too. It's just we never got to see it. The final, it's a team, like the thing was like, no matter how good, and I remember us talking about this a lot, it didn't matter how good the guys were. It all mattered about how good the girl was. Like, you could be Superman, and if your girl's trash, you're screwed. So we did the canoe thing in the beginning, and I actually had that canoe in my driveway at that time. Like, I know that canoe in and out.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Jen was like, splash, it was whatever. We get there, and then we helicopter to the next floor. So one of the things was you had to pick up those stumps and run them back and forth. One, Landon has never been to a gym. He didn't go to a gym at the time. He lived in the woods, and he did that shit, like, on a normal basis. He's like, you never done log rolls? I'm like, what are you talking about? And, like, he's like, yeah. He's like, we push these log and move stumps all the time. And I'm like, what are you saying? Like, this dude was, like, sponsored by Patagonia. Like, he was a proper woodsman. And the thing he had on all of us was he was, like, a professional mountain biker. And so there was one bit where we had to, like, run those stumps back and forth, which we almost gained traction. But then when we found out that the bikes were connected with 3 feet of rope, I was like, there's no way I can haul Jen. And it was ski slopes, but it was they hadn't been snowed on yet. So we were basically running up ski slopes, which were just like, they were black diamonds. They were a nightmare. The other thing was you see Landon towing Carly.
Yeah.
And Carly was the heaviest of those 4 girls, and he's towing her uphill. And I'm like, which gave me a new respect for the level of athlete Landon was. Like, could I beat Landon in a sprint? Yeah. Was there anything else? Probably not. Like, he was like proper man strength. It wasn't like gym strength. Like, the dude probably hunts hogs on foot. Like, he's a man. Hopefully he's gotten a little bit more prissy since then, but like, the dude was murdering all of us. No one had a chance. It was difficult. It took the whole day. And then there was that part where we had to take a 60-pound punching bag and carry it up, which it's like, go to hell. Like, it was some just thought up with these ideas. I was like, we should make them do this. And then we were so far behind, they don't show it. The last was that ice pick. You had to pick up the wall. We were so far behind. They just put us in a helicopter and flew us over there. They were like, we don't need you to climb. Just go ahead and meet us over here. We'll drop you off with your Uber.
That's really funny.
That was nice. But was it difficult? It was I was in top athletic shape, and it was very, very difficult. And the way they test those is they have a triathlete run them. So they'll find local, like, proper athletes and see if they can do them to make sure that they're humanly doable. And apparently Landon smashed the triathlete's time.
That's just crazy. I had no idea he never worked out, and like, I think he's in like dental sales in like Denver now. Like, yeah,
he wasn't a gym guy. He's like, I was like, what do you bench? He's like, I don't have a gym membership. I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, roll logs in the wood. I was like, of course you do. Why am I?
Yeah, I think most people who watched that season would say that might be one of the most impressive final runs like ever, just because no, like, discredit. Well, kind of. Carly was not the ideal partner for him. Like, he willed her to that victory, and man, pound for pound, he might be the best to ever do it. Like, it's up for debate because I think he's 3 out of 4. He just won outright. And I think he made
pound for pound. I mean, I would, like, if we had to do one of those, the ones where you run towards each other, because I've seen those highlights all the time, like in elimination.
Oh, the hall brawl.
Or for wrestling, the only person, because I would feel comfortable going against anybody at any size, because I played Aussie rules for so long that, like, those are the guys I have to play with all the time. But, like, the only 2 people I think would be just an absolute nightmare is Landon and probably Derek.
Yeah.
I might throw Darrell in there just because I love him, but on a tackling type deal, I think I could take Darrell, but Derek has that damn pit bull dogfight in him that's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And Landon is just like proper solid muscle.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's withered away over the years.
Well, like we have one other question, and then we'll let you get out of here. The other one was, do you think that Wes and Kenny really hate each other as much as they play up, or are they kind of more like, oh, we know what this is? Because I think Wes would fully admit that him and Bananas now are like, we know what we're doing. Like, we know we're playing it up and all that. And actually, on this last season, you didn't see, they formed an alliance and became friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who won the last season?
Why am I blanking on that? Yeah, it's over. Why are we out, Jake? Why can none of us remember who just won?
It feels like it was years ago.
Didn't it just air?
It ended like a month and a half ago.
Yeah, but quarantine time passes so slowly.
Isn't this your only job?
Bananas won.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, Bananas won. It was his 7th victory
7.
and his 20th season. Yeah.
It was his 7th victory?
He's won 7
of
these.
Oh, I remember him posting all the rings nonsense, and he was talking about how he's like done.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I think he's coming back. We won't talk too much about casting for next season, but I thought he might hang it up, but
so Wes and Kenny are cordial.
Mm-hmm.
They're very cordial. But never do you see them like broing out or like having a good time together. And I have hung out with Kenny plenty of times outside of everything, and Kenny's feelings are very much aligned with what's on the show. So he's not the biggest fan of him. Of course he can stand him, but yeah, he's like, does he like want to run with a car? No. But like, if he calls him to hang out, Kenny's ignoring the call.
Okay. Kenny is the number one person we've tried to get on here, and he just ignores me at all costs. And I've tried to bribe his dog and like send stuff to the gym he works at.
Kara's the one. My wife's the one that actually, because I've had a lot of like requests after Holey Moley from old school and new school people, and I've denied everyone. And then Kara's the one that said, "Stop being a dick." Yes, the air. So
well, I hope that
so we're opening it back up.
Yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed talking with us about what your life's been like, telling us about your dog having diarrhea and all the different things that go along with that.
You guys pooping with the door open, I'm all here for it, man.
Well, we may have to keep you updated on that. Before we get out of here, though, one, we want to thank you for coming on and hanging out with us. But two, do you have anything you want to plug? You got any more competitions you're going to be showing up on?
You never know. You never know where I'll be. I'm at that age in life where it's like, you have like a certain set path that you want to do. Like there's like the line that you want to walk up until an X age, right? And then it's like you become open to a lot more things. So I wanted to take acting seriously. And if I want to do that, I can't go on reality shows. You can go on something like Holey Moley, which like, it's not like a personality thing, right? It's like a one-off. You'll never see them again. It's the people that like are MTV or the Big Brothers or stuff like that, where in the acting world, they don't take you that seriously, or they don't want that like background on their project or whatever the case may be. So, and so I wanted to stay away from everything. But now it's like, I'm at that age where it's like, hey, if it comes around and it seems like a good time because I've been there and I know what it's about, it's like, hey, let's give it a shot, And more than anything this year, because this year it's like my industry, because I was in nightlife and hospitality, and my industry's out the door.
Yeah.
So like I'm doing like 9 different gigs that I'm in esports now, which I never thought I would be, and I know nothing about esports.
That's awesome.
But there's a esports arena at the Luxor, and it's like our biggest like esports arena, and the director of HR happened to be my director of HR from my previous gig. And so anything with a microphone I do. So like if it's hosting or emceeing or whether it be a wedding to an award ceremony to a nightclub, like that's kind of what's been consistent, especially ever since the show. That kind of got me into it, was hosting the spring breaks as well. And so they called me one day and they were like, we need a host. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. And when they call me, they understand that they're getting like this package, which is like a no filter. This guy really doesn't know what's happening, but he's going to make it funny. And I went there and I hosted a Fortnite tournament, which I've never even played the game. and I was like roasting this old dude because like there's 70 competitors and everyone's young, and there's one dude that's like 41, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna hold it down for our generation. Like we're gonna show these kids like what timeout feels like. And then there's like 70 competitors, and he gets eliminated first. And I was like, you are trash. You're terrible. And I'm roasting him in a stadium on a microphone. And it turns out he was the CEO of the company. And so I was like, oh, nice to meet you, sir. And it turns out he was all for it, and he loved it. And so I've gotten really deep into that level to where I've been hosting a bunch of different tournaments. I don't necessarily, like kind of getting an idea of what the gaming is, but I'm more on the hosting side of, there's nothing harder than hosting 14-year-old gamers. Because if you interview one of those kids, I'm like, you did this, you did that, and like, what was your mindset going into this? And like, the kids are just like, oh, I just popped off, and I'm like, one, what does that mean? Two, full sentences, please. So that's really helped me hone the craft on the interviewing side of things. And then that's a whole nother aspect. And then, and I got into droning, really from the dog, because I got the drone to kind of capture our experiences and our adventures together. And I really got into like that world of like, what's droning like and how hard or easy it is and this and that. And I just wanted to capture the stuff for my dog, and I ended up like liking it. And that ended up becoming a gig. So I've been doing a bunch of droning. I was actually droning a golf course this morning. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, dude, it's like 2020. You have no idea what to expect, what's going to show up, what's going to pop up and bite you in tomorrow. So
well, I'm going to definitely be watching out for if you're hosting any sort of esports. I'm assuming they stream on Twitch as well.
I will definitely be on a screen soon.
Okay.
And then if it's pertinent to you guys, I'll call you up and we'll run this back.
Yeah. I mean, let's know. I think we all had a good time. I hope you.
But Jake has to talk more next time because
listen. I apologize. I have had a pounding headache for the last 45 minutes, and
because you've been listening to my voice or what?
No, it just kicked in. I don't know if it's I need to get some fluid in me or eat something or what.
Drink some damn water. You're dehydrated.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of caffeine.
Probably
it'll go away.
Yeah. So, but no, absolute blast. I love when we can like. I know we bring you on for challenge purposes, right? But I love when we can get like the real like backstory to you and like get a little more detailed into your personal life and everything. Like that's always the fun stuff to hear. And so talking about the dogs and
challenge.
Yeah.
There's humans out there.
Yeah, and that's what we try to show. They're not just these like sound bites you see for 8 minutes at a time on,
Every now and then though, it is the exact person on screen. You're like, Jesus. and you'll meet, and you do it in real life too, where you meet these people and you're like, I could have sworn that person only existed in movies. Like, you're a real person. Like, you actually talk like that to people. Like, wow, how'd you get this far in life?
Yeah.
Go to college.
Luckily, we haven't had any interviews like that. Everyone we've interviewed has been very lovely. Also, I try to be very direct with who we asked to come on the show, because we want to have people that we know we can get along with and are not going to be people we look down the road and are in an article on TMZ or something for whatever reason. Although that did happen recently, which was not our fault, so we won't talk about that. I'm not going to get into that right now.
Give me a name. Come on, that's the dirt.
It's been great talking with you, and
that is the dirt we need.
We'll get back with you down the road, and thanks for coming on with us.
Good luck with everything. I will talk to y'all soon, and hey, get with the door open, people.
There we go.